Looking at this physique, let's do a tier list. So he's got the longer insert biceps, definitely looks a little bit more aesthetic, but less peaky. A good amount of mass though, where he's filling it out. You can see some vascularity. I'm going to say the biceps are B tier. You can see that the triceps have a good amount of sweep because you can see the overall thickness. And I feel like they match the upper back well. The only problem is because he's really tall, they don't necessarily give that saturated appearance. So we're going to look at more of a classic style look. And that's why he's working on that vacuum, and rightfully so. I'm going to say that the triceps are B tier. Looking at the chest, he definitely has kind of a longer chest, but he has such a long torso as well. So I'm going to call that more of a medium chest. I would say it matches the arms relatively well. We're going to say that's B tier. He's got good thickness in the abdominals and good thickness in the obliques. He also has exceptional thickness in the serratus interior right here. If this guy was cut down, this would look like a pretty gnarly physique. Abdominals also have B tier genetics, and they absolutely would be A tier because of the thickness if he got lean, and especially because he can rock a vacuum. Some people cannot rock a vacuum. I cannot rock a vacuum. I can pull my waist in and make it small, but it does not cast this shadow like our boy here. Looking at the shoulders, they have a good amount of capping, and he looks extremely wide. Like, this is one of the advantages to having a little bit higher insert lat, because everything's going to ball out kind of right here, and he has good capping of the shoulders with a relatively good shoulder width. So this is going to be a pose where he looks relatively taller and he looks pretty wide. That is somebody who's going to dwarf somebody else on a stage or just walking around in general public. So I'm going to say the delts and the lats are very good. Very good capping, very good lats, very much so a Cobra style back. I'm going to say that the lats are actually one of his strongest points. And then I'm going to say that the shoulders are one of his strongest points as well. So a lot of mass, and they would have a lot of structure and potentially even striation if he was to cut down. The upper back though, the infraspinatus would need to be bigger. The upper traps would need to be bigger. And that's because his back doesn't have a lot of detail. So if we got a little bit more detail in the upper traps and with the infraspinatus, we'd be seeing a little bit more balance in this back double bicep. I'm going to say the upper back is B tier, but looking at the erectors, you can see a lot of thickness. They would be shredded if he got lean. We're going to say that those are A tier. Forearms, decent shape. You can see the good structure between the brachioradialis, the extensors, and the forearm flexors. We're going to say that that is also B tier, and it just needs to get some vascularity or a little bit more separation again if being lean. Looking at the legs, he has medium inserts on the gastrocnemius. He's just not quite posed here, but the calves are not small by any means, and they have good roundness. We're going to say also B tier. Looking at the quads, a good amount of mass, a good amount of sweep, a little bit higher insert on the vastus medialis. I'm going to also say B tier. And then the hamstrings, I would say I don't really see a lot of the hamstring going on right here. So I'm going to say that that is actually C tier. And then if we look at the glutes, I can't really tell. So with that said, if he was to cut down, some of this stuff would move up to A tier. And he's a taller guy with a good amount of mass. He's 243 at 6'3". So this kind of shape would look very crazy if he was to get leaner. People completely underestimate how big they would actually look when they get lean. Because if you put some shadows on this guy and you gave him a little bit more striation and structure, like just look at the size here. Look at the shoulder. Look at the tricep. Look at the forearm. All of that actually has quite a bit of size. And whenever he cuts down, you would really see to what extent that size shows through.